spawning up here in the top position representing France. And Terrans everywhere. Give it up for CLEM. And he's going to have a doozy of an opponent up here versus the King of the North. He is SERRAL. Now, obviously, CLEM has had a meteoric rise to fame in recent events. Obviously, qualifying straight into the round of 24. He fought his way out. And while he didn't get first place, which would have put him into the quarterfinals, he still was defeating opponents that you really wouldn't expect him to be beating. And from that, I mean, he's really earned his place. I think 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse for Terran is not enough. I think CLEM is the honorary 5th Horseman. You know what? Right now, SERRAL is going to have to give a lot of respect to that. As we do see, he's going to be playing it pretty standard to start things off. Obviously, in a best of 5, I feel like it's a bad idea to go for those aggressive cheeses early on, because that's just going to open yourself up to retaliation so early. And, you know, you do have that little bit of a buffer. It's first to 3, so losing one game isn't going to mean too much, but one game soon turns into 2, and that's when you're up on the ropes. So it looks like we do have a couple of Zerglings. CLEM skipping the Reaper, as you can see, going straight into double Marine production. And behind that, we will have the factory coming on down. And this opens up a couple of aggressive possibilities here for CLEM, as he will have a very high Marine count by the time that factory finishes. He can switch that over, go straight into Hellion production. And with one simple armory, you know, that is a very deadly push for SERRAL to deal with. Or on the flip side of that, you can just send the Hellions across, get a little bit of damage, and then follow it up with a lot of drops, a lot of aggression, just kind of pulling the army of SERRAL back, never letting him hit that 80 to 90 drone count that he's going to be looking for. But yeah, there you go. The armory is down. The Marines are going to start a slow trot across the map. The problem for them, keep in mind, is that there will not be a medevac with this push. But just the fact that it's going to hit a little bit earlier than SERRAL is probably expecting, that's going to be the power in it. Now, he will have 5 queens, so, you know, queens can be pretty good. But he did take the low ground base, which is going to allow these Hellions to just morph up unabated. And here we go. Instantly, SERRAL throws down the Baneling nest. He doesn't really have a high count of Zerglings. And CLEM just kind of slowly trotting more Hellions across the map as they pop. The Queens are getting on top of. They don't have enough transfuse energy. So already, this is getting some decent damage for CLEM. Even just denying that mining is really nice. Oh, if he could finish off those queens, though, that would be the nail in the coffin. So now SERRAL wanting to do a little bit of counter damage, but CLEM is already set up with his next stage. He's got Stim on the way. His additional factories coming in. Still no starport, however, as he's going up to 3 bases. That's going to be interesting to note as this game goes on, because that's going to lose out on some of that harassment ability. So far, the Hellions just looking for that opening. However, it's not going to be enough. Oh my goodness, Clem did not see this as the Banelings roll on in. A little bit late to drop his, to get away from his natural. 2 SCVs going down. The floodgates have opened. And the Hellions do come home to defend. They will force away a lot of these Banelings. 8 workers going down. Not going to be the biggest of deals, honestly. Just because he does have 3 orbitals. So mules are going to help him out a little bit. But as I say that 15 workers going down might be a little bit too much for him. Okay, so he does hold, and he will be able to finish up his wall, so he's not going to die right now. You know what, I'm a little bit worried that SERRAL might overextend into this. That's the kind of problem here. Look at that. He thinks he's a Ling. Nobody tell him otherwise. He can be whatever he wants to be. That's what his guidance counselor taught him. And he wants to be a fighting unit. But now we see SERRAL just going for that bit of a soft contain. Trying to make sure that Clem, while he rebuilds his economy, isn't trying to move out with any of his forces. And now... yeah, the creep spread's starting to get pretty far out. Obviously, Lightshade, once you can get that to kind of the midway point, it's really quite difficult to get that restarted. But hold that thought as the Hellions get surrounded, but fighting in the choke point is going to be enough to force the Lings back. A good pullback there by Clem. I gotta say, I'm very interested by the fact that Clem is still pumping out the Hellions. As we all know, Hellions tend to lose their utility as the game goes on, as those upgrades just start to kick in. But the thing is, SERRAL is really late on these +1 upgrades, as is Clem. So I think just the fact that there are no upgrades on either side is going to make these a very useful tool, especially if you can soak up the Baneling connections. The Lings taking a lot of fire there. And actually the Hellbats are doing their job, keeping this off. Good focus fire by Clem. Gonna get right on top of the low number of Banelings, but he will be forced to retreat. Gets one more of those Banelings before having to pop out again. He's already got his second army ready to go. This one's not really too big, but you know what? We've seen people die to less as he's going to be coming up to the top. We do have a small little Baneling run by as Clem does get caught out before getting pulled up. The Banelings, though. There you go. Finding an entire mineral line worth of damage. That is definitely worth it. He keeps trying to fight with low numbers of Lings, and Clem is just not having any of it. He's saying, you better have as many Lings as I have Marines, because I'm not going to let you win with anything less. And now SERRAL starting to fall apart a little bit as he's engaging with not all his forces at once. The Queens are caught out with not that much support. And it looks like Clem is going to get some beautiful splits. And so he can really just keep this location. Oh my goodness, Clem is just so good. As he cleans up the last of the Banelings. The One of Mine's getting a good connection as well. And he is just saying to heck with your reputation as top of the ladder. I'm going to just kill you. GG, Clem takes game number 1. You know what? That was a very strong start for this young French Terran. As really, he's come into his own. I can say this a million times. He's really made a fan out of me. Just with how his playstyle mirrors some of the best Terran players in the world. Like, honestly, if I have to talk about his Marine control, he's like Marine King from way back in the day. That is a name that you haven't heard in forever, I know. But you know what? Let's hear this guy's name once again. Spawning in the top position, he is CLEM. And his opponent, down here hanging out on the purple carpet, is our red Zerg, SERRAL. So, the question is CLEM going to continue that sort of aggressive style that we saw in game number 1? Or is he going to kind of stick towards the later stages of the game? That's the big question, because as we all know, once SERRAL hits that critical mass, it's almost impossible to keep up with him in terms of that macro. 4 to 5 bases, injects consistent, and there's not really that much you can do, because he'll be up at Hive, he'll have his upgrades roughly the same time as you, and he'll just kill you that way. So I think CLEM is going to be able to find that kind of angle where he can, just get these small positions here and there and just kind of press his advantage in that situation. Now we do see he's going to be mixing it up. He's going to be going for the Reaper. Just going to stay safe with the Scout. And we'll have to see what SERRAL's reaction is once again. Reaper comes in. Things just waiting for Big Mama Queen to engage, but they will get a couple of little nibbles on the armor. There we go. The Queen is enough to shoo that away. Should drop that first creep tumor as well. Just has to be careful not to let that get sniped by the Reaper. And even the Queen up here, I love it. He's just trying to make sure that CLEM sees absolutely nothing. As he throws down his third base in a little bit more of a, I want to say, aggressive position. And this is one thing that you can say. This is a hard location to kind of hold if CLEM was going for anything such as a tank drop. Excuse me, not a tank drop, but, some sort of tank push, which has almost sort of been the meta for quite a bit of time. Has CLEM gotten confirmation on that base? He has indeed. Just got to make sure of that. Because if he only saw 2 bases, that's when the alarm bells start to ring as the Terran player. But there we go. This time he is just going to be going up to 2 Hellions. Not really going to be too aggressive with them, I'd imagine. Just looking for a little bit of positional control. And to try and keep SERRAL honest. But, SERRAL, he's got enough here. The Queens are going to be enough to push this back. I love how he hasn't even upgraded Overlord's speed, but is still going to be trying to get in there with that Overlord. He's not going to see anything too interesting, I feel, just because CLEM's just going very straight up macro with this style. The only real big difference is he did get that third CC much, much quicker to try and stay even with his opponent. Once you get up to three bases as Terran, that's kind of the war machine Terran. Your production is just completely unfazed by pretty much anything. And yeah, there we go. Gonna get those upgrades as well. Evo chambers have popped for SERRAL. And nothing really too much else to say about this point in the game. It's pretty passive for these guys. Here we go, though. Clem finding a little bit of a stride down here in the top. We'll be able to get the Overlord. That's actually going to supply block SERRAL for just a second there. That's pretty nice. Trying to get a little bit of a poke on to the third as well, but that's not going to happen. Really nice focus fire there. Going to get one of the Banelings. But you know what? The big question for SERRAL behind this is, what's he going to have as a supporting unit? So far, he doesn't really have anything to help out with these Banelings. And I feel like you really can't stay that way versus someone like Clem, who we've seen splits before every single engagement. It's just a really uneven sort of trade that you will be taking there. And look at that, even getting more focus fire. Another Baneling will fall. The Overlord's trying to get into position so that they can give a little bit more information as to what's coming his way. Honestly, I don't think they'll stay there for much longer. The big problem for Clem right now is just the fact that he hasn't really powered up his economy. He's only just now going up to that 5th Rex. And since he is going for tanks, they're a little bit delayed. How many does he have out right now? He's only got about 3. Looks like SERRAL is gearing up. Remember, he already has taken down the rock formation on the left side, so he will be able to get a surround on this, and he does decide to pull the trigger. Good focus fire on the Banelings. Clem gonna move to the very edge of the creep. But on the other side of things, the Banelings getting 11 kills. So now all SERRAL has to do is hold this location, and he's gonna be in a fantastic spot. So far, though, Clem getting the epic Baneling kills right there. And he is not going anywhere as that siege tank in the back. Really hard to deal with. Another small run by, going to get some of the reinforcements, but the rest are already making their way across. Setting up for another surround. But Clem going to focus fire down the Banelings on the left side. Those will have to retreat. He does get the siege tank, however. So now the big question for Clem is, how long can he hold this position? Right now, SERRAL is not remaking a lot of those Banelings. He's only able to get 6. And that's really his big problem. You're going to need, yeah, there you go. 16 is more like it. Comes in for the surround once again, but the siege tank is focus firing down a lot of those Banes in the front before they can get a tap on the Marines. And I'm loving this by Clem. He is just simply forcing SERRAL forward and then retreating back off the creep. Gets a lot more Banelings out right there, and SERRAL has collapsed on this position. GG is called. Clem going up to match point very early in this series. Oh my gosh, can he close it out in game number 3? That was absolutely insane. Taking perfect engagements, finding perfect positional play. There's not really much else you could say about it. SERRAL did his best. He got so much damage done, but he couldn't kill the army. And once you can't kill the army, that's the issue. That's when you're dead. man. Speaking of kids on fire, give it up. Down here in the bottom location of Romanticide, he is on match point. CLEM. And his opponent up here in the top. He's got to go for the reverse all kill to make this work. It is SERRAL. Now remember, this is not the group stage. This is not the round of 24. This is SERRAL's last life on the line in this game. If he does not win, then he is going to be eliminated and have to come back from to IEM Katowice next year. I feel like the online nature of this tournament does kind of affect a lot of the games that we have seen that have been cross-server. I don't necessarily think the players played badly at all, but at the same time, you could kind of see some small issues here and there. I remember an interview with Parting saying that, he felt, or excuse me, it was Zest who felt his hands were a little bit slow in some of his games, and definitely server preferences kind of come into that as well. If your hands are slow and your ping is bad, that's a recipe for disaster. Now we do see CLEM just wanting to get that confirmation on this base. He sees it's at a normal time, so that's all he really needs to see. As the Reaper going to be coming out for a little bit more of a cheeky hit squad. Gonna just dance around. Really good control from SERRAL, keeping all of those alive, even pulling one Singletary drone in order to push this back. Trying to go straight for the creep tumor, and he does get it at the cost of the Reaper, but that will slow down the creep spread towards the third base and out onto the map, which is even more crucial just because he is taking this low ground position. I don't really know if that's going to be the best location for him to expand into. The reason for that, just from the fact that, again, you have rocks. And anywhere you have rocks is a Terran player's dream. Over here, rocks. Over here, rocks. Over here. They're kind of like rocks. They're glowing rocks that give you money. But they're still rocks. So I think that's kind of the power of Terran on Romanticide, just taking advantage of these positions in order to make their attacks work. But we do see the Hellions going to be rushing their way across. The Tech Lab is down on the racks. He's going to be going into Banshees, it looks like. Okay, nice. Banshees a little bit out of the meta in TVZ. But you know what? I still like them. They're still pretty darn good at helping your opponent, or just kind of keeping your opponent down. You know what? He is adding on quite a few Hellions. So if he can kind of find an angle where he can get in, and it looks like CLEM will dive on top of this. Not going to commit, though, as he sees the Lynx in the backfield. Very good pull away. He almost lost all those Hellions. But yeah, if you can kind of find your way in, if you can fight with a good majority of these Hellions, and that's going to be pretty nice versus the early game Lings, as we've kind of seen SERRAL get his upgrades slightly later than you would normally expect. Still kind of just looking for angles to come in. The lair is not complete, so he's going to have to rely on the spores in order to fight that. Almost makes his way in, but SERRAL pulls the drone away. Now, you know, the one thing I love about SERRAL right now is that his creep spread's so far forward. He's really made it difficult for Clem to abuse any sort of location, and he's setting himself up for a nice, simple expansion pattern all the way down there into the 6 o'clock position. So even though Clem is kind of cleaning that up a little bit, that's not really enough. You want to be finding some more damage with how much you've committed to it. Gets one drone, but that's about it. Now with all those Hellions alive, he can augment these into his forces. Once that armory is complete, he will be able to morph those into Hellbats. So it's kind of just a natural progression of Terran build orders. As SERRAL is still just powering up, he's going to be going into Mutalisks. He's kind of said before that he doesn't feel as confident with his Muta control. He said that in a couple different situations, but honestly, if you've seen his Muta control, you know that's just him being humble. And he's a really humble dude from what I've seen. And this was the point where referee C had to drop. Now Clem going to be moving out with a small handful of units of Widow Mines. Do have a couple of places that they can hide in that tall grass. They're all trying to find them. But really just going to help out with the retreat as they are set up beautifully right there. One of them will get found. The Queen just barely getting transfused in time. That was a good save. And now with that scan, he's revealed the fact that it is Mutalisks. So instantly, turret, turret, turret. He knows he has to defend those bases. As we see SERRAL going for a pretty big backstab. Going to be cleaning up the wall. Might want to not focus on that. Go for the SCVs. That might be a little bit better use of your time. But with how big of a commitment that is for him, Clem is going to be pushing out. Gets one Overlord. And kind of forces SERRAL to come back, because if he doesn't, he's going to get cleaned up there. So as the Muta's not really being focused on right now, SERRAL is set up, trying to get that concave and the surround. The Hellbats in the front, pushing away a lot of these Lings. Just waiting for the next bunch of Banelings to spawn before he really dives on top of this. Now, however, the clock is starting to tick as the Muta's finding so much work. I think they got plenty of those reactors, so that means the production is going to be hurt quite badly for Clem. Still, though, he's kept a good chunk of his army alive, still has the supplied lead as well. As he's being forced back here, the Overseer giving him vision through the tall grass. But beautiful splits backwards. Going to save all of these Marines, and he's going to keep this position for a little bit longer. Now fighting on creep once again. The Bane is not going to get the connections that they need. Just kind of taking a look at it. We do have 30 Marines with this army. As SERRAL as well, not really having the unit count that he would want so that he could backstab a little bit. He needs everything at home in order to defend. And he is just bleeding out Banelings to deal with this army of Clem. The big question is, how long is SERRAL going to be staying on this layer tech as well? Because as Clem goes up to +3 upgrades, which he should pretty soon because his +2 is about to complete. Hold that thought as SERRAL trying to dive onto it once again, but Clem just barely edging the edge of creep. Looks like the Widow Mines do get taken out. An okay connection right there, not the best. Now the Mutas are going to be sent across they're not really needed with this anymore, as he feels like he has enough. +2 has complete. No +3 on the way just yet. But he is going to be going for that +1 defense. That's going to help out his medevacs quite well. Oh, no missile turrets up here. So that means that he's going to lose a lot of these reactors. That Thor just seconds from popping. But also, SERRAL going to get into this third base. 12 workers going down. And I think that's really his game plan for this one. Death by 1,000 cuts. Oh my god, Banelings. Decimated right there. A good Widowmine shot before this engagement really begins. Takes out a lot of those Lings. And Clem just once again going to be inching his way forward. The pre-splits are decent. Just really trying to make sure that he stays off the edge. The Banelings going to be rolling in. 7 more workers killed, but he's still on 70. So he's not going to be feeling that crunch as much as you would expect. Fourth base, however, is completely forfeit. The missile turret's going down, and that's where SERRAL is looking for that damage. Anytime Clem moves in, he's trying to pull his attention away. Taking a look at this. 10,000 minerals have been lost to the 8,000 of Clem. The Thor is actually tanking up a lot of those Baneling connections as well. So while Clem is starting to bleed out units, SERRAL really kind of just struggling to get that final blow to finish this off. But oh my gosh, 28 workers going down. Clem trying to remake those, but it's just not fitting into his build order to remake those because he wants to be making more army. Even going to get the Widowmine defending. So Clem having to keep a lot of his army back at home. Or risk losing too much. And now it's not looking as good. Taking a look at that income, SERRAL is up over 2,000 minerals a minute. And he's going to be going up to Hive. He's got +2 coming in. And even though this small drop gets in, there's not really that many drones here. They got pulled in time. Oh my goodness, these Banelings. Even if they're not getting a ton of workers, the big problem for Clem is that he's not mining the entire time he has to pull those workers away. So that's a lot of indirect damage as well. I love the hidden Widowmines. That's actually really cute. If SERRAL's not paying attention, which he really shouldn't to a run by. That would be enough to stop it. Good Widowmine connection right there. Good pull by SERRAL for the second one. The three splits are pretty good. SERRAL just has to buy some time and wait for the rest of the Banes to pop. He's pushing them forward. But there we go. The Banelings trying to get on top of the Marines. Those are the juicy connections. He gets a good chunk of them, but oh my goodness, SERRAL still having a little bit of trouble here in the front. In the backfield, he is faring much better as these Mutalisks. Getting 15 additional workers. Looks like there was a small Ling run by over there that got cleaned up. Now the Muta's forcing the entire army to come back at home. Clem is starting to bleed out units. Taking a look at that supply. 107 to 81. But the big story is the overall supply. 190 to 136. That means there's not a lot of economy here left for Clem. SERRAL just kind of bleeding him out, just really tightening the noose. Getting this base up here, not necessarily the nail in the coffin, but as he gets his own 6th base up, as he kills 7 more SCVs, and as he gets the kill on that base, this is really just, you know, he's playing a game of hangman more than anything. And the Thors are getting some good connections because he is keeping them bunched up. But he's not getting the killing blow, which is the big problem for him there. The Hive did complete a while ago, so those +3 upgrades are going to be starting to roll in, especially that adrenal glands. And here we go. Clem, once again, he loves this position in this game. He wants to win with it. But on the other side of things, the issue is now forced. As he lifts up the 3rd, the Baneling's getting a couple of good connections right there. And SERRAL does have the ability to go for a big 360 surround. I don't know how Clem is going to be able to hold on to this location. Yeah, Scan going to go down, revealing how far behind he is. Did he see this base? He did indeed. As Mia's going to be looking to pick off a couple of reinforcements. They're a little bit caught out there. So Clem will get quite a few of them for his trouble. Oh my goodness. So that's what SERRAL means when his control sometimes lapses. As he loses a big ball of them, but the Widow Mines are saving the day in a lot of these locations. Clem finding another way to try and break through. Over here on the, I think, 5th or 6th. But back at home, the Lings cleaning up house. Looks like the +3 upgrades are about 5 seconds away from finishing. Takes the fight before then, but I don't even know if it matters as Clem has been bled out. As this army goes down, he goes down below 100 supply, and that is the indicator that SERRAL has worked his way back into this series. GG. What an epic game number 3. SERRAL showing that even if he's down, he is never out. And you know what? He's going to have to keep up that aggression as we're hopping into Pillars of Gold for our next one. Can SERRAL complete the reverse sweep? Can Clem make his first round of 8 in IEM Katowice? Will this narrator just get into game number 4? You got it, folks. Spawning down here in the top position because it's a top-down isometric game. He is Clem. And his opponent down here in the bottom, the King of the North. He needs your energy, and he needs it now. He is SERRAL. So, I think Pillars of Gold is one of the more standard maps that you will find in this current pool. That being said, the rush distance is a little bit longer than of some of the other maps. You can kind of see it winds around, comes down this way, goes up maybe 2 or 3 ramps, and then you can get to your opponent's natural. But that doesn't mean that there's not a good possibility that we see some sort of cheddar out of the either side. You know, sometimes you do it on the maps that you're not really expecting it because your opponent will be so caught off guard just with how out of meta it is. Big question for Clem is, will he be able to kind of find that same positional play as we did see on Romanticide? Because if he can kind of find those locations, you kind of saw that he was very entrenched. Even without siege tanks, he kind of just had those Marauders or Thors as the buffer, and really just didn't let up at all. SERRAL was not able to respond with anything other than those backstabs. So if he can do like in game number 1 and just make it so that SERRAL can't afford those backstabs, that's how you beat him as CLEM. So now nothing too crazy out of these guys. It's pretty standard stuff. SERRAL got his third base. CLEM will more than likely be going for Hellions. It's kind of the thing as a Terran player. You do need to keep some sort of positional play out on the map versus a Zerg player. Even if you're not getting the drone kills that you would overall expect, you still need to kind of just show the threat and make sure that they have to make enough lings to defend, because if they're making lings this early, they're not making drones. So no tech lab coming on out. That means it's either going to be medevac or Viking to clean up the overlords, and it is indeed medevac. Oh, okay. Once again, we're going to be seeing that Hellbat push come out. This one a little bit more standard. And with that, you know, right now, what does SERRAL have? He's got 3 more queens on the way. He will have a small smattering of lings, and he does have the Baneling Nest dropped on down. But SERRAL really needs to see that this is coming, because he needs to stop droning, like, now, and get quite a bit more in order to defend this. Overlord going to be coming in, sees the Banshee follow-up. I think he did see the medevac coming out, but it's a little bit late. He's going to sacrifice the third base, pull all the drones back to the natural. One of them will fall. The second should go down to the Reaper, but the Zerglings trying to fight the Hellbats. Not really going to make a lot of room that way, as he only has 2 Zerglings left. Oh my goodness, this is a scary situation for him, and he's going to take a lot of damage on that third base. The Queens, though, going to be able to push this back for the time being. I think overall, CLEM did get some decent damage, even if it wasn't direct. He stopped mining at that third for such a long time. A good hold, though, by SERRAL, gotta say. There you go. Some of the Hellions going to be dropped off into the main base as he tries to push the front, keeping a lot of these queens out here. What does he really have in the main? The answer is nothing. Nada, zilch. Looks like the Banshee going to be coming in as well, just to reinforce this point. Hellions morphing into Hellbats. Honestly, I think I would have liked to see 2 of the Hellbats just stay Hellions, because then he could chase down the units, but I digress, as he's going to get 2 workers for free, 4 to keep things rolling. And although he gets cleaned up in the front, he's going to get a total of 5 workers on this side. Now the big question, was it enough? He's got his third floating on over, and Stim is about to complete his Marine production. Is very healthy, so I'd say overall he's looking very pretty in this one. SERRAL's gonna have to catch up with those upgrades and with those other expansions. Kind of taking a look at that. Yeah, he's only just now hitting 70 workers because of how hard CLEM was pushing him. And CLEM's no slouch either, up at to 58 with mules. That's a pretty big deal. as you can kind of tell from the little tiny arrows on the overlay. Queen's pushing that creep forward as far as they possibly can. That's going to give him such an early warning system to this push. But Clem is moving on, and one of the queens falls very quickly. Now, SERRAL doesn't have any units split away for the backstab right now. So he's just going to have to rely on getting the surround for this. I think that's going to be the best way to deal with it. How many banelings does he have? Okay, he's only got about 8 right now. I don't think that's really the best number. But he is set up for a pretty good surround. As soon as Clem moves a little bit too far forward on the creep, he's just gonna strike. Okay, what I like about this is he can either use it for the surround or he can go for the run-by. Who knows what the best option is for him on those ones, but Clem just going to be rotating around these two locations, looking for an angle where he can go. Not being too aggressive, which I like. I'm just glad that he's not throwing away his units needlessly. As you can kind of see, clock is ticking as that infestation pit goes down. We should be seeing Hive come up here pretty darn soon. Couple of nice cancels on those. We'll get surrounded. Sicheng's just inching their way forward. He's not scanning for the creep on top of them. On the other side of the map, the Banelings get 22 workers. So now, Clem's situation is a little bit dire. Down to only 44 workers. He needs to do something right here, right now. And he's getting surrounded, forced to pick up. So this means that's a lot of his army that's not fighting. The reinforcement's going to come in to save the day. And Clem just going to continuously try and put on the pressure as much as he possibly can. But already SERRAL is getting ready for another run-by from this. The Lings trying to get the wraparound. Good Baneling connection there in the front. Siege Tanks, though, going to make sure that SERRAL can't go too far off the creep. Go, another big Baneling warping Clem, not paying attention in time. Okay, he does scan and reveal those Banelings. It doesn't really matter. He already got 13 workers with that. And unfortunately for him, it does mean that he did reveal the fact that he has Burrow. So now Clem is going to be a little bit more cautious moving on the creep, but here we go. SERRAL gonna jump right on top of this. The Siege Tank gonna force everything back once again. But SERRAL just has so much that he's able to split off the Lings for the run-by. Now Clem down to 127 supply. His reinforcements may be together, but those are gonna get cleaned up. The Hive is done, so SERRAL can go up to +3 attack anytime he so chooses. And Clem, you know, he's not going up to +3. Both of these guys, even though they are mining quite efficiently, oh my god, SERRAL's up 3,000. Clem can't afford to go up to +3, and SERRAL just doesn't want to. This is another death by 1,000 cuts situation, and you can see Clem just deciding not to fight this one out. GG is called, so SERRAL, one game away from the reverse sweep. Can he finish it against this young upstart? We'll have to see as we're going into Death Aura for our last map of this game. And you know what? Let's mix things up. Up here, he is the king of the north. It is fitting that he is in the top position. Give it up for our red Zerg player, SERRAL. And his opponent, he is 1 match point away from victory, but he's also 1 point away from elimination. Give it up for the French Terran, CLEM. So it looks like neither side are going to put it all on the line for this last one. We don't see any proxied barracks. We don't see any spawning pool first. We just see good old-fashioned TVZ openers from both sides, which I can get behind. You know, it's kind of, for CLEM, he's already lost 2 games. So, you know, he's kind of lost the train of momentum. So going all in is a pretty bad idea. But on the plus side of this, SERRAL, you know, he's going to be looking for any single-tary angle that he can make CLEM suffer. And I think that's kind of been his strength in these series. It's just those deadly run-bys with the Banelings, with the Lings, forcing CLEM's attention away from the army in the front. And that's just enough for SERRAL to buy himself time and just steamroll in the way only a Zerg can. So factory coming up, the Reaper going to be, you know, poking around. Good pullback from SERRAL, just going to keep those Lings alive for as long as possible before the Queen does pop. Creep tumor should go down. Actually, he's going to be pulling down both Queens to deal with this. Just trying to be a little bit safer. I guess that does make sense, because you do need to get that creep spread to that 3rd base as quickly as you possibly can. Otherwise, you run the risk of CLEM just finding that location and sieging it, sans the siege tanks. Hellions are about to pop. He does have that 3rd base ready to go as well. So that does mean that he's going to be able to stay pretty equal to his opponent in terms of that production. Again, a 3-base Terran is just that kind of war machine where you're consistently producing units. You don't really have any sort of deficit, and it allows you to do those kind of pushes that CLEM is loving in this series. So good on him in that front. Even going to get the Raven to help clear up some of that creep. Because if he can push that back, especially on this map, that's going to be a pretty big deal. The creep, you know, because the creep overall is just a tool that SERRAL can use for not only vision, but also as he can kind of fight that army before it gets anywhere near his base. So getting that spread out is going to be super important, especially on such a spread out map like Death Aura. Okay, we got a little bit of a scout around. Going to be jumping behind the Hellions, who are just simply here to clear up the creep. I doubt they would get too much more with the queens in position. I think you're one SAV, and a little nibble on the Hellion. But Clem has found a little bit more. He's going to jump right in. The Evo Chamber block is good. He cuts the one in the backfield. And Clem, I don't know why he's not going for the drones right there. That is a huge stack up. He's only gotten 5, and now he's kind of surrounded right now. A little bit of a blunder as he's going to get taken out. Yeah, the drones are able to go back to work, and just the fact that he wasn't able to dive on top of that, oh my goodness, that was a huge mistake for Clem. Oh. Yeah, like your Terran heart hates to see it. Now, he does know that it is Spire Tech. Did he see that? Yes, indeed, he did. So now he's got to get prepped and ready for the next phase of this game, where he's going to have to deal with those Mutalisks just flying everywhere. And the question is that going to slow down any aggression that he's going for, because of the fact that those mutas are going to be out? You know, there's kind of that little obligation to keep some Marines back at home while you build up that turret count, while you kind of, you know, power up before you move out. Go, Clem. Going to be trying to clear up some of that creep once again. The Ling's going to be backing up behind the Queens, fighting without the Banes as they're stuck behind, actually. That's a pretty big deal. Looks like Clem is going to just pick up and get out of there. Not really losing too much, only a couple of Marines for that one. But the Mutas, though, are now going to jump in and force the stem at the very least. While SERRAL is occupied on that side of the map, however, getting 7 kills, he will get canceled here on the 5th. Now those Banelings do have speed finished up, so they're going to be a little bit harder for Clem to deal with. But just a nice little pickup there, going to keep him alive as the Muta's going to try and help finish this off. One thing I love about SERRAL right now is that he is respreading quite aggressively with that creep blanket. Even though Clem is doing a really good job of trying to get rid of it, it's just getting further and further out every single time he does. And now SERRAL, he's kind of up to that 78 to 80 worker count that you would expect of a Zerg player. He hasn't really taken too much damage because of the blunder on the Hellions. So now he can really just, you know, tech up, Ling up, Muta up, get those upgrades nice and rolling in. He's a little bit behind in that regard because he's only just now about to have +1. And he is spending quite a few Banelings to deal with this army. Not really getting good connections, but already we do see SERRAL gearing up for the run by, maybe having to send the Lings home. As the Widowmine's going to kill off the Overseer. That's going to help out quite a bit with this position. Oh my goodness, a big Widowmine shot there, cleaning up all of those Banelings. The Mutas in the backfield did get 4 additional workers over there on the 4th. Now the question is, oh no, SERRAL. Is he paying attention? He's just going to leave the Queen there to die. I don't completely disagree with that, as it will allow him to finally clean up a lot of those, as Clem going to be rotating around. He does have the superior army, 104 to 76. And that is not a spot you want to be in as SERRAL. Some good drops going to make sure those banelings don't get the best of connections. But that means all the mutas are over here and not in position to deal with this one. So just sending a couple of them forward. Those will get cleaned up, but that will make sure that the Widow Mines won't go off once the main engagement begins. Now just really selling the threat of the Mutalisks. As he is just really gearing up quite nicely. The Thor getting a beautiful connection right there. This is enough to kind of push this back. Looks like a couple of workers did go down somewhere on the map, but now with Thors on the way, now with those additional racks and 3-3, I think Clem's all right. You know, he's just got to find these locations where he can push in. But he's on a bit of a timer with this army, as we do have that infestation pit dropped. He's going to find a pretty easy kill up here in the top, as SERRAL going to be looking to get the kill on the 4th in retaliation. He does get it, as well as a good chunk of the workers. But as that's happening, Clem is moving further and further onto the purple carpet. SERRAL is going to be forced back. He's down 40. He's down about 20 supply, 30 supply even. And his biggest advantage is that those mutas are still alive. The Thor is being forced to lift up. And he will clean that up, but the banelings getting nowhere near the connections that he needs in order to stay even. As every single time he wastes one on just 1 or 2 Marines, that just gives Clem so much more room. And look at these pre-splits. Clem just making sure that any sort of engagement is going to go into his way. Pulling back before SERRAL can even know what's hitting him. SERRAL just waiting for those additional banelings before he can dive on top of this. But the mutas are going to be coming in. The Thors being forced to lift it up. The Widow Mines getting a huge connection as the mutas are going to be hotboxing it a little bit to try and survive and get rid of that Thor. The supplies still relatively even as a scan goes down, revealing that bottom location. But now Clem is trying to rotate around. He just needs to find a new angle to engage into it. SERRAL, you know, he still has an army, but it's not really a scary one. 47 Lings and 15 Banelings. With how Clem has been splitting, that's, you know, you're going to need a lot more than that. As the mutas are going to be going for a little bit more economic damage. They're not really going to be able to find it, as the reinforcements for Clem are back at home, ready to go. And now kind of just taking a look at it. I don't think Clem needs to stay too defensive much longer. I think if he does so, then he's going to give a lot of room for SERRAL to kind of get back into it. But keep in mind, SERRAL does not have a hive on the way. And that's going to be a pretty big limiter on his game plan, as he's stuck on 2-2 upgrades. Clem is already on 3-3. Oh my goodness, this is not a good situation at all for SERRAL. Clem completely maxed out now, trying to catch the army on the offensive. Good Widowmine shot. SERRAL is supply blocked quite heavily as well. Clem finding his favorite location, clear of creep. And even the mutas struggling to make things work. SERRAL a little bit out of position for this one, And look at these splits once again. Clem just engulfing over 2 screens worth of action. The Banelings gonna morph their way in, but those are all cleaned up. And Clem feels confident enough to jump in. GG, the young Frenchman topples the King of the North. And he will move on to the round of 8. That's going to be it for this series. Make sure you guys hit like, favorite, and subscribe, and check out Alpha X SC2 on all the social media for when we go live next. We will see you guys at the next big event.